Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for stopping by. My name is Chisum. On this channel, I share sewing tutorial videos and fashion related content. So today we'll be learning how to cut and sew these beautiful jumpsuits that you can see on the screen. If you're interested in learning how to make this, keep watching. To make this jumpsuit, we'll start by drafting the upper body first. Now I have already marked my block for the front and back pattern. Next, I am marking my armhole line from the shoulder line I drew at the top there. I marked my armhole length, which is 8 inches. Now the next thing I'm going to do, we are going to be starting with the front pattern, which is this side. So I'll mark my bust point line, shoulder to bust point, shoulder to under bust, and then the waistline, the waist length, which is the mark at the bottom here. Next, I'm going to label these lines so you get a proper clue of what I'm talking about. Bust points, chest line, this shoulder line. From the center front here, I will come in by my shoulder divided by 2 plus ½ inch allowance, and I'll square it out. I'll slant the shoulder by 1 inch, come in 3 inches from the center front and connect the shoulder slope to it. Next, I'll mark my neck depth of 3 inches and curve out the neckline. Now this is just the basic neckline. We will not be using it at the end of the day. On the chest line, I'll mark my bust divide by 4 plus sewing allowance, and then I will curve out my armhole with my armhole curve. Next thing is to impute the waist measurement divide by 4 plus sewing allowance, then connect the waist to the chest line. Now I'll come in by my nipple to nipple divide by 2 on the waistline and bust point. My nipple to nipple is 7.5, divide by 2 is 3.75, so I'll square that up. Now on the waistline, I'll take ½ inch on both sides. Now remember, this is just an English wear kind of jumpsuit, so no much contouring is needed. That's why I'm using half inch for my dart. Next, I'll determine how off I want the dress. It's an off shoulder with tiny strip. Okay, so for mine, I'm using 7 inches. You can use 8 inches or 9, depending on how if you want your whole breast to pop up. Okay, so I marked the 7 inches, and I'm going to extend the dart line to that 7 inches mark, because I'll be taking my dart, I'll be tightening that side, which is going to serve as the over bust. Okay, so I'm taking this dart because I need that place to relax firmly. Even without a strip, it's going to relax. It's not going to be opening or showing my breast. It's just going to lap very well on the chest area. So I am taking the dart to the bust point as well. Next, I'm going to curve this dart into the armhole. Okay, so I'll get a perfect curve that will give me what I want. So you can see what I am doing is just as simple as ABC. So that is that for that. Now I'm going to try to get a neckline. I don't want the front to be straight, so I am trying out a curve that will give me the kind of neckline that I want. So I'm going to place it from this dart here to the center front. Okay, I'm okay with this, so I'll go ahead and curve out the neckline. You can see it's not so deep. This is about ½ inch. Next, I'll take my side dart to connect to the bust point as well. This is the difference between the front and the back body, so that by the time I close up the side dart, it's going to match with the back. Now to the back part, I'll first take out the difference between the front and the back, because the back waist is actually shorter than the front waist. Okay, this line is going off. Now this is the back pattern. For the back, I only have the shoulder line, the armhole line, and the back waist length. If you're used to my video, I'm sure you understand this by now. First thing I do on the back is come in by 1 inch on the waistline and connect straight to the top. This method is to help the back to relax and the zipper will not be bulging. After that, I'll mark my shoulder divide by 2 plus half inch on the shoulder line and also on the armhole line. I will connect it straight line. Now I will come down by 1 inch to slant the shoulder. Come in by 3 inches from the center and then connect the shoulder slants to that 3 inches. Now I will mark 1.5 inch for the neck depth for the back and then go ahead to curve it out. I'll measure my bust divide by 4 plus sewing allowance on the chest line. On the waist, I'll measure the waist divide by 4 plus sewing allowance and that allowance and then connect the side. Next, I will curve out the armhole, not forgetting that the back armhole is usually not as deep as the front, so I'll place the curve ruler accordingly. Now I will go ahead and mark my nipple to nipple measurement divide by 2 on the waistline and connect straight to the chest line. I'll take half inch on both sides for the darts on the waist and then I'll connect on the chest line. I'll take like 0.25 inches because we need to also tighten the chest line. That's part, this is the side that's the top is going to relax at the back. Okay, so that is why I am going to tighten that place in order for it to relax firmly. At this point, I'll label the center back and side back, add my center back zipper allowance. Next, I'll be marking out the strip on this pattern paper to serve as a guide when I'm ready to cut it out on fabric. Okay, for the size of the strip is dependent on what you want. Here I use half inch and I went ahead to label it. For the chest line on the back pattern, I'll leave it straight. You can give your own any style you want if you're not okay with the square shape at the back. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut out the pattern. Now I'm trying to close the back dart. This will enable me to cut it as a one-piece fabric, or rather 2-piece. Instead of having 4-piece for the back, I will have only 2-piece for the both sides. Okay, so that is what I did. This is actually easier for me because I don't really like sewing that. I don't like sewing that. So once I am able to close the dart on pattern, I go ahead and do it. I wanted to cut the strip, but on a second thought, I'm going to keep it aside. Now this is the back. I'll also label the up and the down to avoid any mix-up or any mistake. Okay, so go ahead and cut the front pattern. Don't forget to close the side dart, because if you don't close closing this dart will enable the front and the back to match at the side. Okay, just in case you're still wondering why do I have to close this side dart, that is the essence. So just watch how I am cutting the front. I decided to close the over bust dart before cutting out the front neckline. Okay, so I'll close it and hold it in place like this. Then I'll go ahead and cut out the neckline. Now I'll be tracing out the front strip just like I did for the back. I'm also using the same half-inch width that I use. Okay, this way is better. If you do it this way, the strip will be able to relax on your body without falling off. So I'm measuring the two strips lengths to know the length I'll be cutting out on my fabric. Moving to the trouser part, I have ruled the waistline and the side line here. Next, I am going to mark the waist to hip line, the waist to crotch line. Now your normal crotch line, you're going to add 2 inches or 1.5 inches to that because it's a jumpsuit. Okay, now my crotch depth is usually 11 inches, but I'll be adding 1 inch to that because it's a jumpsuit. So that is the length I am marking right here, and then the length of the trouser part as well. I'll go ahead and rule out the marks that I have made. This is the hip line and this is the crotch line. Remember, for the crotch, you're adding 1.5 or 1 inches extra to your normal crotch depth. Okay, so from this side, I'll mark my hips divide by 4, and also on the crotch I'll mark the same measurement and rule it out like so. This is the center now. Okay, so this is the center. I'll go ahead and erase this in order not to have much write up on this pattern paper. From the center here, I'll impute my waist divide by 4 plus 1 inch dart allowance and mark it on the waistline. I'll connect the waistline straight to the hip line. Now you can see that I extended the side. Okay, now on the center front, I'll come down by 1 inch, and on that side I'll go up by ½ inch. I'll connect the two marks together, which is the mark on the center and on the side. So this is the shape of the front pattern waistline. Okay, it's actually going to be different from the back. Next, we'll be increasing the crotch line. This is the hip line extension. I don't need it, so I'll erase. Now I'll extend the crotch by my hips divide by 20, and I'm going to curve it out like I am doing right now. I'm just trying to make a demo with my pencil. Then I'll get this curve that is suitable for the curving of pants, and then give it a slight curve rather. The front part trouser doesn't need much curving. Okay, so this is okay. Now I'm going to take what this exact measurement I have on the crotch line all the way down. It's like a palazzo trouser, so there's no shaping after the crotch line. I'm just going to go ahead and mark the length of the trouser. I didn't mark it before. Now the length of this trouser is the full length of your full length minus ½ inch. The full length minus ½ inch, that will be your trouser length, just the way you make your skirt too. But this one, if you want it to flow very well, you can go ahead and add 2 or 3 inches extra to your length. So just know that what I have on the crotch is what I am taking all the way from the bottom to the crotch, and that's it. Next, I'll be imputing my darts. Now whatever I used for the upper body is what I'll use for the lower body. Remember, this is a jumpsuit, and you don't want, at the end of the day, just in case you're going to be sewing darts on the trouser part, it will not be matching up with the one you have on the top. That would be an error. So I just marked my dart line now, which will stop 2 inches before hip line, and on the waistline I'll take ½ inch here, ½ inch there, then connect to the dart apex. So guys, if at this point you have not subscribed to this channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. Please support me now. I beg, I need your support. This is basically all there is to the front pattern. Okay, now let's carve out the flay, the one we are going to be slashing and spreading. I'm trying to determine where the curve is going to start. I chose the hip line actually. Now if you want yours to appear finer than the one I did here, I think you should go 2 or 3 inches above the hip. Okay, so this is what I did. There's no rule to this. Just use your eye to gaze at what you want and go ahead to cut it out. Now for the back part, I have marked the same lines that I had on the front pattern. So I will measure the hips divide by 4 on the crotch line and on the waistline, and then connect it with a straight line, just the same way we did for the front pattern basically. Moving on the back waistline, I will come in by 1.5 inches. This will help the back trouser part to relax and give you a perfect fit. To extend the back crotch, you divide your hips by 10. The figure you get, that is what you use to extend the back crotch. On the hip line, I came out by 1 inch. Now I'm going to connect from the waist to the hip line. You can see that 1 inch extension I had on the hip is where I'm connecting to, and then I'll curve it out to meet the crotch line. I extended the back waistline by 1.5 because of the butt. Okay, now on that 1.5 mark, I'll take the waist divide by 4 plus that allowance, not forgetting to also raise the side of the back by ½ inch, just like we did for the front part. Now I'm going to remark the back waistline, which has obviously taken a new shape. So now I'll connect the waistline to the hip line. Now I'll connect straight from the crotch all the way to the hem. I'm marking out the cutout shape that I did for the front pattern as well, and because the front started from the hips, the back also started from the hips. I also added sewing allowance on the back pattern. Now I'm marking the dart for the back, which I almost forgot. So I'm using ½ inch on both sides as well, and connect 1 inch before the hip line. Now it's time to cut. I'll be closing the dart to tape it down so I won't have to sew it on fabric, and whatever I do for this pattern, I'll do for the front pattern as well. Now for the cutout, I'll mark 2 slash lines because I'll be spreading it on fabric to give a fuller effect. Now it's time to cut it out on fabric. I have placed the pattern on my fabric on fold. I am slashing through the lines that I marked on that cutout. If you want this part very full, you have to have more slashes, or you have to spread them very wide from each other, and this also depends on the volume of fabric you have. So for this tutorial, I actually managed 3 yards of crepe fabric, but if you want to have a very full effect, maybe you make use of 4 yards or 4.5 yards. So this is me basically arranging the slashed pattern on the fabric and pinning them down to secure them. I separated them by 1.5 inches space before I went ahead to cut it out. So this is how I will pleat it when joining. Here is the upper body part. I cut them out as well on fabric, and I also cut out like a lining, or should I say facing, to turn the necklines. So next is to go ahead and join the parts that corresponds to each other. This is the center front, and these are the 2 side fronts. So I'll go ahead and join this side to this side and this side to this side. I've joined the front pieces together, and I also went ahead to prepare the strip. Remember the strips we marked out on the back and front pattern. I added them together to cut out a single piece, which I cut out at 1.5 inches width and 15 inches length. I folded it into 2 and stitched. Now I'm going to use my needle and thread to turn it to the right side. Then I'll go ahead and iron it properly. Right now I have ironed everything and it's coming out really fine. So I'm going to fold the fabric equally to mark the center back where I want the strip to be attached. From the center back I marked 5 inches. So I'm going to open it up now. I will fix the strip on the front side, pin it down to secure it, then roll it over to the back and pin it as well. I'll do the same for the other side. Then I'll go ahead and place the facing over it to stitch from one end to the other. I'm done turning the neckline, and this is what it looks like. Now we are done with the upper part. Moving on to the trouser part, this is it and what the down part looks like. I'm just going to take it to my sewing machine and stitch the cutout into the main trouser like this. I'll pleat it and stitch it together. Now I've pleated the cutout into the trouser, and these are or the trouser pieces. Next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and stitch close the crotch for the front, and for the back I'll leave a space for the zipper at the top and then go ahead to stitch the remaining one. I'll stitch the crotch area like I said. This is the front part and this is the back part. Next, I'm going to join them side by side. I'll make sure I match the cutout side of the front and the back because they were both cut out at the hip area. Okay, so this is me trying to pin it to secure it in place before I go ahead and stitch with the volume of allowance, stitching allowance that I added. So I'm going to start from the beginning to the end on one side and also on the other side. Before I go ahead and stitch the crotch area, I'll match them together, stitch from here to here and come back and stitch the other side. I've joined the trouser pieces together and this is the outcome. Next thing I'm going to do is to attach the upper part to the trouser part to make it a jumpsuit. I'll simply match the top and the trouser part on the waistline and stitch from one end to the other, after which I'll go ahead and attach the zipper at the back. I'm done attaching the zipper and now we have our jumpsuit. Guys, you can actually wear this jumpsuit like this and it will be so beautiful. It's really sexy, trust me. So let's proceed to making the flounce details. For the flounce details, these are the pieces I have cut out for it. This is actually all the pieces that are left from the fabric. I have these plates for the circle I want to use to create the base. You can also use something like this if you have anything circle that you want to use and you know that it is the size you want. Okay, now these are the strips I have cut out. They are 4 inches wide and then the length is as long as possible. They are just pieces that I'll end up adding together. I'll just go ahead and curve out the circle for the base. You can see I'm actually cutting two because I want to use one to turn the other as lining. Okay, so I'll simply place the circle like you can see me do now and then trace it out with the chalk and go ahead to trim it out. This fabric is a dull face or shining face, brighter satin actually, so that is what I am using. If you have enough fabric from your crepe you can use, or use anything at all that you want to use. It's just a base, it will be covered at the end of the day. Okay, so I doubled it and after cutting I'm going to stitch it round and then open the center to turn it out from there. I'm done preparing the strips and the circle base that I'm going to be attaching this to. What I'm doing now is to go ahead and mark a spiral circle on the base. This is to guide me when stitching it. You can give ½ inch space from the first circle that you mark and continue marking. You know how flounce is usually cut? That is what I am marking right on this base. So go ahead and trace out the mark for easy sewing. This will help you to stitch easily. So I'll just take it to my sewing machine and pleat on those marks that I made, and until one is filled then I will do the same for the other part. So I brought you to my sewing machine to show you exactly what I mean. You can see I am following the marks that I made on this base right here and I am pleating. So you're just going to take your time to do this. Keep pleating and going until you're able to fill the space that the base has. After I was done making the flounce details, I proceeded to tack it on the jumpsuit at the bust area, and this is the final look. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. I hope this video was helpful to you and you enjoyed watching it just as I enjoyed filming it. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel for more video tutorials. Thank you for watching and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.